Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to another video. Boozer here. How's everybody doing? Welcome to the channel if you guys are new here. So today's episode, I ran across some interesting info. I kind of nerd out for like this kind of stuff, but it's like a data set. And it's the first one I've seen of this type of subject, but it's on Live Arena, specifically Gold Live Arena. So it's basically the top end of Live Arena. I mean, there's currently not going to be not too many people in Gold Plus, so 2700 plus. I believe, let's see, 2700 plus. You're looking at what, the top 100, maybe top 200 people in the whole game. So there's not going to be too many people in this tier, but in this data set. But basically the data shows a couple interesting points. So I'm going to bring up the data right now and we can go over it. Just give me one sec here. So this data I found on, whoa, very bright. This data I found on Reddit today. Credit out to Holy P Shooter. So he posted this data. But basically, it's a data set for pick rate, ban rate, and win rate for Gold Live Arena. So if you guys weren't aware, in Gold Live Arena, you're not allowed to pick the same champion twice. So if you pick the champion first in Gold Live Arena, the opponent cannot pick the same champion. So it leads to more, basically, champion selection, diversity. So it's kind of more interesting than silver and bronze for sure. So he pulled this data set apparently from hellhaze.com. So we can go over the data right here. So I'm gonna move my big head. So yeah, let's go over some of this data. Some of it is really interesting, and it's kind of nice to kind of statistically back up what I was feeling the whole time. So you have some stats to kind of back up what you're noticing, what your experiences are. Of course, this is for Gold Live Arena, and the sample size won't be too massive. I would say maybe 1,000, maybe a 1,000 sample size, 1,000 games, but I'm not too sure. But we have sorted here. First is pick percentage. So the champion that is picked the most in Gold Live Arena is Duchess, 49.1%. So half the time Duchess gets picked, and she's the most picked champion, which honestly, in my experience, is very true. It is super strong, a super strong champion, and gets picked all the time if you have it. Number two, second most picked is Duchess. Again, not surprising at all. Duchess is super versatile, fits into a lot of teams. And yeah, generally just a great champion, so not surprising there. And then we have Terrace. So Terrace is the top nuking champion in terms of pick rate. So if you have Terrace, you're probably picking it most of the time. And then we have Harima, Rhodos. So you have the top three, basically DPS in the top 5 most picked. So these are clearly above the rest. But also these 4 champions are clearly above the rest. So Siphi, Duchess, Terrace, Harima. So these 4 probably make up most teams that you face in Gold Live Arena, which again makes sense. And that's what I would use too. If I had Terrace, I wouldn't pick Rhodos as often because Rhodos gets countered quite often. And then we have Marichka, Yumiko, Warlord. So the 2 lockouts are right here. And then you have kind of like the next nuker, which is Georgid. He's the good for Stone Skin. Cutting through Stone Skin. And then you have some support. So UDK support, Necrit support, Cardio support, Uko, Helicath, which is surprising, but picked quite often. And then you have the next tier of Nuker, Leoris. So it's a pretty big drop off from the nukers in terms of popularity. So Harima, so Terrace, Harima, Rhodos, and then you have Georgid, and then a big drop off to Leoris, which again totally lines up with my own experience. Arbiter is interesting. I don't see Arbiter as often in silver, high silver. Ronda, I do see. Torment, also surprising, but Torment is probably going to come in here as a DPS, I think. But the drop off is pretty big. So the drop off is pretty big at this point. Like you can probably like don't even worry about basically like I'd say like from 25. This you probably don't even have to worry. This data set is just too small. Pick rates below 2%. So there's only really like 24, 25 champions picked in the pool for all of Live Arena basically. And Baron, Baron from experience isn't a super strong nuker. Hefrak, I'm surprised, shows up here. I feel like he's even weaker. But yeah, interesting. But it kind of just lines up with my own experiences. So we can look at ban percentage. So which champions get banned the most? So this is another interesting statistic. And again, no surprise, the two lockouts get banned the most, 52 and 51%. And it's a huge drop off to the next. So if you basically have a lockout in the team, it gets banned half the time. And, you know, from my experience, it's probably more. But the drop off is pretty big afterwards. So CFI 29, UDK 27. Again, these are very in line with my own experience. Terrace, top 5. I mean, these top 5 get banned all the time for my experience. After that, Duchess, Necrit, Enethway. Enethway is like, I guess, threatening enough that he gets banned. After that's Arbiter, Kymar, Hellcath. I do ban Hellcath quite a bit. And then we have a couple nukers, Marichka, and then some of the counters. Some of the counters get banned, like Ramantu, Hegemon, Tormund, for example. But yeah, it's interesting to see, but honestly not too surprising, because like I said, the lockouts obviously get banned all the time. And then finally we have win rate. So this is kind of just showing you the champions that are basically the strongest when they make the lineup or when they're in the right situation. So here we have Tormund, which is like basically super strong. He's picked a okay amount, nothing insane, but he should be in the top 25 champions picked for Gold Live Arena, and his win rate is significantly higher than like anything that's not Terrace or like a meta counter pick. So for example, like Alo, I'm not sure what Alo is probably picked like maybe once or twice, and maybe he won once or twice. But I'm not sure what Alo counters. I know he has a lot of debuffs, so he might be at risk to get sheeped. But I'm not sure. So I mean, somebody up in Gold Live Arena has a really good Alo strategy. Terrace is just going to be hands down the strongest champion, like generic champion. He's not a counter to anything. He's just super strong. So you see him here with the win rate as high as it is. He's just super strong. So that's all there is to it. If you need more, if player need more statistics to ban this guy, he needs to look at this, basically saying like, oh, as a generic pick, like he is as strong as like counter picks, basically. Like for example, Ragash would be like a counter pick to like a heavy force team, for example. Eric's kind of is a DPS. She has a AoE strip, which is kind of cool, like on the A1. I'm not sure what else you would use her in, but the sample size is quite small. Same thing with Ragash. Candrafon is also an interesting pick. Probably a pick versus Lockout because his A1 so strong. Probably paired with Cardio for the ally attack as well, to use the A1 a bit more. And he's always going to get the double hit because there's so many buffs in this meta. But yeah, it's a bit surprising considering that Harima is so popular that Candrafon is actually so strong. But yeah, that's interesting. CFI, no surprise, one of the best champions in Live Arena. Marichka, actually surprisingly very strong too. I didn't think Marichka was going to be that strong, but Marichka is definitely strong. And a bit of a drop off to Yumiko. Cardio actually showing a lot of value here as well, winning most of his matchups. Georgette also very good, strong, but Georgette's more of a counter pick to heavy stone skin tank defenses. So his win rate should be slightly inflated, I think. he's not going to be a blind pick champion. And then Haruma is pretty much a blind pick, 51%, which is super solid for her as well. So net crit support 50%. Mithrala is probably going to be more of a counter pick, situational pick, 50%. Supreme Elhain, surprisingly 50%, but small sample size. UDK as a counter pick is probably a little bit low, but I mean, I don't know how to explain this, but maybe the guys in Live Arena have ways to deal with UDK a bit better. But I'm pretty sure he's a counter pick. He's probably picked very often against Sifi, but he probably doesn't perform super well against like somebody like Terrace, for example, which pairs super well with Sifi. So I could see that. Warlord 49.6, basically right behind Yumiko, but slightly worse. Duchess blind pick at 48, which is pretty solid. Ronda's going to be a counter pick, 47, slightly weak, but not too bad here, somewhere in the middle. Trunda, Leoris, similar win rates in terms of nuking. Turvo requires some setup, so his win rate's going to be a little inflated. Hegemon, not super good since Hegemon's going to be a counter pick, not going to be a blind pick. Arbiter, maybe a blind pick, 44%. Baron, Raka. Hellcat, surprisingly not that good. This is actually a little bit surprising. 42.8. Same thing with Uko. So the RNG guys, Uko at the RNG guy not performing too good, and Hellcat actually performing not that good too. I would expect Hellcat to perform a little bit better since he, obviously has that shield that's hard to deal with sometimes. But I guess the guys in Gold Live Arena know how to deal with him. Here's another big one. Rotos does not have a very good win rate, even though he has a ridiculously high pick rate. So you can see here, he has one of the lowest win rates, but he also has one of the highest pick rates, which is a little bit sad for me because I'm fully investing in Rotos. But to me, Rotos is still my best champion in terms of damage dealing, in terms of game changing, match winning. But yeah, he's definitely a pretty telling stat here. Gets picked the most, or one of the most, and then he has one of the lowest win rates. Pythion, not too surprising. I do find Pythion a little bit weak in Live Arena because his heal sometimes can be significant, but most of the time it's not. And his damage reduction is fine, but yeah, he doesn't really do too much more, it feels like. Ursuga, like just a tank. Valkyrie, surprisingly low, but small win rate, small pick rate. Eithway, surprisingly low, but small pick rate. Kymar, not too surprised. Mortu, not surprised at all. Elva, Stultus, low pick rate. Ramantu, low, very low. So it's interesting to see. It's interesting to see how they fare from a statistical point of view. And I really like this stuff because it kind of just justifies your experience, right? So the other stat, I guess you could, the other stat that I'm missing here, sorry. All right. So the other stat is the total points. The total points kind of just shows like most highest pick percentage. So basically all three categories, if you score high, that's a good thing. Basically, you get high picks, high bans, high wins. So the total should be relevant to show kind of like the best overall champion. And so then we have Sifi at number 1, the best overall champion based on these three pick rate, although not perfect because pick rate, it could be wrong. High pick percentage could be wrong. High ban percentage could be wrong. But win rate should not be wrong. But does have some biases in the win rate, so the data is not going to be perfect. But for this purpose, we have Sifi at the best, Yumiko the 2 lockouts. So Sifi the 2 lockouts, Terrace the best nuker, and then Duchess. So best team reviver, best single, best overall champion, 2 lockouts, best nuker, and then Haruma actually kind of getting in there, but these 3 kind of stand out. And then you have a pretty big drop off with Haruma, UDK, even Marichka, Necrit, Georgia, big drop off. Roto sneaking in there at 11. Yeah, he's still obviously very good. And then you have like the tier like A, B type champions here. And then you have the champions down here that are not super strong based on this metric. But yeah. Anyways, I hope the info was insightful. I do enjoy this kind of data stuff. I wish Plarium made it more accessible instead of only relying on a couple sources to dig up this type of info. And it's not easy to access, it's not easy to find. And although like I can't find source material for this data, I have no reason to believe it's made up. It seems reasonable to me. And yeah. But anyways, I hope the video was insightful. There's some good talking points here. The champions I have highlighted in green are the ones I own personally. So I do own some of the I guess more meta champions, of course. So for example, like Sifi, Duchess, Haruma, Rotos. I would love a Terrace, and then the rest. But I realized I don't own a lot of these other ones, which is surprising. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think. And do you guys agree with this? I think it is agreeable. It's definitely matches my own thinking. But yeah, anyways, let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next one.